This episode of Playing on a Budget is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 source of games and gaming accessories, and by GatheringMagic.com, the #1 source of Magic the Gathering news and articles. Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with another episode of Playing on a Budget. This week we are going to try this deck that is making some waves here in the MTGO Standard, which is called UG Flash, and it actually is piloted here by a very, very famous player here on MTGO called Batutina. He is probably, I would say, at least top 5. He's a Brazilian grinder, basically. He's on MTGO 100% of the day. You can always find this guy on there. I've played against him many, many times in daily tournaments and whatnot, and if it's got his seal of approval, then the deck, he went 4-0 with this deck, so it must be good. It must actually be doing well against the metagame right now. So anyway, I just like to go over it because it is quite budget. It is saying the price of the deck here is 143.13 tickets. The good news is most of these cards actually are very, very affordable in paper as well, because they are like Skylasher is still considered a bulk rare. You can still find these for 50 cents. You can find them in bulk bins everywhere. And yeah, so you're going to save some money here. But the majority of this deck, as you can see, is between the breeding pools and the Mutavaults. And so we're going to look over this deck in paper price and see what it costs. So anyway, let's go down the list here. What Batutina is running is 4 Boon Satyrs. These are all flash cards. So 4 Boon Satyrs, 4 Briarpack Alphas, 4 Horizon Chimeras, 4 Shamblesharks, and 4 Skylashers. And then as the control, which is a kind of a bounce strategy / you can give your guys +3+. The Simic Charm is really good. It's got a bounce, it's got hexproof, and it's got giant growth. So it can really do most things you want it to do in a tempo deck. Then we have dissolves. Dissolves are so good for the scry. You get to counter a spell and hopefully get a land off the top and on the bottom of your library. And then 3 syncopates. I don't know how I feel about syncopates. I think there might be a better counter spell. I've looked at them. I don't know. It's something that I'm going to take a look at to see if Syncopate is good in this deck or not. And this has 2 opportunities. I think about Prime Speaker Zagana, because they're both 6 mana casting cost. And Prime Speaker Zagana most likely will draw you 4 or 5 cards in this deck. So it'll be exactly the same as Opportunity. However, Opportunity is instant speed, and Zagana is not, and that might be the big difference. And then 2 more Cyclonic Rifts is no overall bounce. It's also an answer for Pack Rat. And then the lands are pretty self-explanatory. Temple of Mystery, Breeding Pool, Mutavault, and whatnot. So to keep this under budget, I am going to cut 2 Mutavaults, and it is going to put me above the budget. But since it's Christmas time, we can afford a little more, right? We can splurge on the budget by just a little bit. You guys will forgive me. And then anyway, the sideboard here, we got Sensory Deprivations against the aggro, Gainsays against any blue, Bident of Thassa against any sort of mid-range, or if you want it, it's just a perfect tempo card to bring in versus other mid-range decks. And 3 Plummets. I'm assuming these are in here for Nightville Specters and Desecration Demons. And then we also have the Triton Tactics against the red decks, as well as Triton Tactics can do a lot of work. What it does, it gives up to 2 creatures you get +0/+3. You're going to untap them, and any creatures that are blocked by the creature do not untap. So you can kind of lock your opponent down. Again, we'll test this card to see how well it does. Not too sure about it. So let's just go over the prices, brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the sponsor of this channel. And I've got all the rares. It's going to cost us $121.30. Again, you can cut 1 Mutavault to put you under that $100 budget, but I want to at least keep 2 in. The other list was running 2. It was running 2 Mutavaults and 2 Encroaching Wastes, so I'm going to go with that list, and it will just put us over just by a little teeny bit. Again, the incredible pricey part of this deck is the Mutavault and the breeding pools. So if you cut those, the deck will still work. It won't be quite as consistent, but the deck will still work with Simic Guildgates instead of the breeding pools. And then you're way under budget. Now you're down to like a $30 deck. So with a $30 deck going 4-0 in a standard day on MTGO is pretty good. Granted, this is Batutina. The guy could run a draft deck and probably do well in standard. So keep that in mind. But it has been putting up pretty decent numbers. So anyway, and then everything else here, like I said, is pretty affordable. We got Bident of Thassa as under $1. Boon Satyr's at $2. And then we have Skylasher still at $1. But again, you can find those. I mean, I know at my local store we do have them in the bulk bin as well for 50 cents. So they're pretty easy. And we have the temple that's the least expensive temple by far, Temple of Mystery. So anyway, so let's just go to the list that I've built. We've got it here. I've got my mana base. Let's go by converted mana cost here. Is pretty much the same. I added one more Simic Guildgate for the... I thought the deck could easily handle 5 comes into play tap lands with no 1-drop. I think that's fine. And the other big difference is it's going to be 2 Encroaching Wastes and 2 Mutavaults. The reason why Encroaching Wastes are pretty good in Standard right now, and please, 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 Wizards, if you're listening, give me Ghost Quarterback. That would be such a great card right now for Chain of the Rocks and Shrine of Nyx. This guy's just too slow, and sometimes this plane just misses Chain of the Rocks. A lot of times Chain of the Rocks is being put on a Sacred Foundry, so you can Encroaching Waste it and get your stuff back. But, I mean, this is still an answer for Shrine of Nyx, which is a very annoying card in many matchups, especially like Colossal Gruul. You have to get rid of that Shrine. Unfortunately, they usually have multiple Nyxes in their hand. But anyway, so that's our mana base. Pretty self-explanatory there. I would recommend going up to 4 Mutavaults. Looking at this deck, it really seems like Mutavault is a perfect fit, especially when you bring in the Bident of Thassas against the control matchups. And again, this deck is a tempo deck. So what I mean by tempo is you're going to be bouncing permanents. You're going to be playing stuff at the end of their turn. Just a nice little tempo. Getting in there for 3 damage per turn is probably ideal. Just grinding your opponent out. Bounce, tack, bounce, tack. Works a lot like the old Delver deck. And then, so at our 2-drop slot, we have the bounce spells in Simic Charm and Cyclonic Rift. Then we have which bounce is so amazing against Devotion right now. You just got to set their Devotion back by a turn or 2, and then they become really slow, clunky decks. Then we have the Shambleshark, which is a 2-1 Flash Evolve. It can get quite big. And then Skylashers, which are pretty decent. I kind of wish these were... could trade favorably with the Nightveil Spectre, but they still can block them all day long. Then we have Dissolves, which is a 4 of. Like I said, it's the best counterspell we have options for in the metagame right now in Standard. Then we have Boon Satyr, which is probably the most powerful card in this deck. A 4/2 Flasher, which, the Bestow probably will end up happening every once in a while. And Briarpack Alpha, it's just a nice 3/3 Flasher, and the +2/+2 is relevant. And we have Horizon Chimera, which is kind of cool, which can put you over the top against the damage-dealing decks, as you're going to gain a life every time you draw a card. So with Opportunity, you actually will gain 4 life and draw 4 cards. And each turn, you're going to be at least going to be getting 1 life out of this dude, as you're going to flash it in at the end of turn. You're going to draw a card, hopefully before they can answer it. And again, Horizon Chimera is the perfect target for a Boon Satyr. It works perfectly. So 4th turn, flash in Horizon Chimera at the end of turn. 5th turn, drop a land. You're going to bestow the Boon Satyr on the Horizon Chimera. Get in for 7. He's a 7/4 flying trample. Then if they kill it, you still have a 4/2. So there's definitely that line of play. Pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, it runs just like a tempo deck. We have 3 Syncopates, which I don't know. I kind of want to go Plasm Capture. I kind of want to go Mystic Genesis, the other 2 counter spells for green, blue, but they might not be very good. Mystic Genesis seems pretty good against like Elspeth. If you counter an Elspeth, then you get a 6/6 beater. But Syncopate does just fine as well. So onto the sideboard, I dropped a Bident of Thassa. I thought 3 was way too many. I'm not quite sure about the reasoning. I mean, without a Devotion-based deck, Bident of Thassa just doesn't seem as good to me. And I think 2 is the right number. Essence Scatter is way too powerful not to be playing in this format. There are so many decks that are just almost 100% creatures. We got mono black that all you really need to do is counter a few creatures here and there. All their Nightveil Spectres. You hit a Nightveil Spectre with an Essence Scatter, you've set or a Desecration Demon, you've set mono black very far back. As well as in the mono blue, all you have to do is keep these up for Master of Waves, or again, Nightveil Spectre, and you're good to go. And I just think that it's a shame not to play Essence Scatter right now. There's no answer for it. There's no Caverns of Souls. It's just too powerful of a card for creature-based decks that are dominating the format. Then we have Negates to bring in versus Esper and any other control-based deck. And then the Sensory Deprivations I cut down to a 3 of. Again, I don't know how I feel about this card, because a lot of times you can definitely race those faster. It's great to put on a Phoenix. It's great to put on a Boros Reckoner, which I think this is probably the main thing it's in here for. Nightveil Spectre, it's good to put on. We'll test this card to see how it works. Keep it in 2 Triton Tactics to see how they work. And I'm going down to 2 of Plummets. Maybe I should go up more, because again, Nightveil Spectre and Desecration Demon are problems. And it does work against like Phoenixes, But other than that, there isn't too many flyers. We have the Cloudfin Raptor, but that's not... It's Cloudfin Raptor is not the biggest threat with this deck. It's something that Skylasher is probably going to eat all day long. So anyway, I'm liking this deck. I hope it performs well. It's a nice little tempo deck, and we'll see how it works. This is Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.